This week I watched Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 2 on Netflix, and after getting such a positive response to my previous review of Season 5 Volume 1, I decided to review this new batch of episodes as well, and also discuss the ending and how it sets up the series finale. But in order to fully understand some of the issues I had with episodes 5, 6, and 7, it's important to have some context about the origins of the show itself. A decade ago, when the Duffer brothers first pitched Stranger Things to Netflix, they had envisioned the first season of the show as a standalone story that would then be part of a larger anthology series, but Netflix preferred seeing it as a regular series instead, and even though the Duffer brothers agreed to the change, it's always been pretty clear to me that they never really had a concrete plan of where to take the story if the show ended up being successful, nor did they ever anticipate that the show would ever become as popular as it did. And indeed, after a very solid and memorable first season, seasons 2 and 3 of Stranger Things really dipped in quality, with too many characters constantly being added to the cast and too few victims to really level things out. But to their credit, the Duffer brothers were able to course correct and steady the ship during season 4 by introducing a new villain in the form of Vecna and finding more purpose for all of their characters, many of which were just aimlessly roaming around in the two previous seasons. And after watching season 4, I had genuinely hoped that this meant that the Duffers were on the right track again, and that the final season of Stranger Things would be the grand finale that everybody was hoping for. Unfortunately though, after watching both season 5 volume 1 last month and volume 2 this week, I'm sad to report that this season has been something of a disappointment. In this video, I'm going to talk about the plot for episodes 5, 6, and 7, tell you my thoughts about them, including how they set up the final episode of the series, followed by my official score. But before we begin, if you're interested in supporting an independent reviewer like myself, please consider taking a second now to like and subscribe, as it would really mean a lot to me. Episode 5 starts off where Episode 4 left off, in the aftermath of Vecna kidnapping 12 children and Will using his newfound sorcerer powers to destroy a bunch of Demogorgons. Will feels guilty for not realizing he had special powers before Vecna got away with the kids, but Joyce tells Will that it's totally fine because he did the best he could. We also learn that Will can only use his special powers when the screenplay needs him to, and the screenplay says that only if Will is connected to the hive mind, he's then close enough to Vecna to tap into his powers or something. So Joyce, Robin, and Will end up electrocuting a dead Demogorgon next to a radio tower, which seems to connect Will with the hive mind and give him powers again. Meanwhile, inside the illusions within Vecna's mind, where both little Holly and Max are stuck, they lure Vecna to a cave where he's supposedly afraid to enter because it stores a hurtful memory for him. And Max tells Holly that if they could somehow find the moment that Vecna entered their minds, they could finally go back home. Why would this help them get back home? Yeah, don't think about it. At the end, Vecna ends up catching up with them, but very conveniently, Will manages to take over Vecna's mind just in time to injure him, giving Holly and Max a chance to run away, but it takes a toll on Will, and then he collapses and loses consciousness. Meanwhile, Hopper escapes the military lab with Elle and Callie when a very grumpy Linda Hamilton realizes that she's been fooled by an illusion of Callie at the facility, even though she's not really there. In the car, Callie tells Elle that grumpy Hamilton wanted to inject her blood into pregnant women in order to create more Vecnas just like Brenner used to do, but the plan failed because Elle's blood is more special than Callie's, which is why grumpy Hamilton is obsessed with finding Elle. Also meanwhile, Dustin, Steve, Nancy, and Jonathan try to find a magical shield generator in the Upside Down in hopes of destroying it so that it would make it easier to find the kids behind the wall or something, and then they conveniently split up into two groups where both Jonathan and Nancy and Dustin and Steve all end up bickering with each other. Nancy then decides to shoot a bullet into the sky, and at that same moment, Dustin discovers that it's bad to shoot the sky, but since Nancy can't hear what Dustin is saying, she shoots the sky anyways, and then a portal appears and sends an electric shock throughout the Upside Down, putting everyone in danger. It turns out that Brenner conveniently left a notebook that explains that the wall they were trying to tear down wasn't a magical shield generator, but rather something called exotic matter, which was the only thing holding the wall together. But the kids aren't actually on the other side of this wall, it's just a vacuum portal of death or something. So because of Nancy shooting the sky, her and Jonathan fall into a pile of white goo, which gives them an opportunity to talk about their feelings again. Jonathan realizes that their relationship can't continue any longer, so he takes out a ring and proposes to Nancy that they break up, and then the dangerous white goo surrounding them hardens, so their lives are spared. Dustin finally tells Steve that he's worried something bad will happen to him after what happened to his friend Eddie in season 4, which is very lucky for Steve because it somehow keeps him from accidentally falling to his death. Meanwhile, Hopper, Elle, and Callie also suffer because of Nancy's stupid bullet, and when the vacuum tries to pull them in, Elle manages to use her powers to save them, and they end up in the regular world at the radio station where Joyce, Mike, Lucas, Robin, and an unconscious Will are all located. Robin then tells Mike and Lucas that Max isn't in a coma, but much like Will and Holly, she's just under a trance that Vecna has placed her in, and they can bring her back to life, so Lucas and Robin immediately leave for the hospital. How did Robin know that Max was just in a trance and not in a coma? Yeah, don't think about it. Elle then crawls into a bathtub, again, finds Will in the virtual world and wakes him up from his own Vecna trance. A now conscious Will tells Elle that Vecna plans to send Demogorgons to kill Max at the hospital, so it's super convenient that Robin and Lucas were randomly already on the way there. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Lucas and Robin arrive, but Robin's girlfriend, Anne of Green Gables, is upset at her and pulls her away, so Lucas goes to Max's room by himself and plays her a cassette of Kate Bush. Again! Just as Anne of Green Gables tells Robin that she's wanted by local authorities, Robin tells her the truth about the monsters and the children, but Anne of Green Gables thinks Robin is both high and out of her mind. Then the authorities show up and apprehend Robin, but just as they pull her away, the Demogorgons show up and eat them. Lucas manages to grab Max and run into an elevator, and he meets Robin and Anne of Green Gables downstairs. And even though the Demogorgons are looking for them and getting closer, Lucas refuses to turn off his boombox that's playing Kate Bush because Max needs to hear it. Again. Thankfully, though, they're all miraculously saved when Mrs. Wheeler shows up for yet another girl boss moment where she takes out 3 Demogorgons by throwing an oxygen tank into a washing machine. Meanwhile, after solving a mystery so dumb that it looks like it was written by J.J. Abrams, Holly and Max manage to find a secret underground cave where they see Vecna as a child getting shot by a scientist and then opening a top-secret briefcase. Eventually, Max realizes that she has a chance to return to her body, so she tells Holly that she has to go, but wishes her the best of luck in her future endeavors. Max then wakes up in the hospital just as Mike, Elle, Callie, and Hopper have arrived there. Mike tells his mom that she needs to stay in the hospital as he searches for Holly and then leaves. But why didn't Mike check in on his injured father, who was also staying at this hospital, right after the Demogorgons just attacked it? Yeah, don't think about that either. Holly is somehow able to disconnect herself from the tree tubes that Vecna has in her mouth and starts to run away. Dustin's science teacher helps Murray create a tracking device to find Dustin and the others who are still in the Upside Down. And indeed, this strategy works and they find them all reunited, but without Holly. Nancy tells Mike that they did see Holly floating around as she was trying to escape Vecna, but that he seems to have found her and pulled her back into his naughty tube tree. Now the entire gang is together at the radio station, including every secondary character as well. Dustin explains that Vecna's plan is to merge the Abyss, where he's physically trapped, together with the real world so that he can take control of it, and that the Upside Down is basically a wormhole that serves as a bridge between the worlds. Personally, I suspect that we will eventually learn that the Mind Flayer is really behind everything, and that Vecna, aka Henry, was just a naive boy that somehow got caught in his crosshairs many years ago when he opened that top-secret suitcase, but we'll have to see how that plays out in the finale. Steve then comes up with his own plan that they wait at the top of the radio tower, and when Vecna tries to merge their worlds, Elle will use her special powers to get into his mind and destroy him. Dustin then adds that they'll also use a bomb to destroy the Abyss, including all the monsters in it. Callie, who Hopper thinks is a bad influence on Elle, secretly tells Elle that the only way they can save the world is if they sacrifice themselves before their blood is used to harm people again, and Elle seems to agree. And just as the entire crew all prepare to go out for their biggest battle yet, we get what is arguably one of the dumbest and most annoying scenes we've ever had on this show. It turns out that the reason Vecna chose to kidnap Will when he was a little kid was that he knew Will had a weakness that he could exploit. You see, Will was fond of dudes. And the only way Will could overcome this problem is to now tell every single character on this show, even people that he barely knows, that he was fond of dudes, so that it wouldn't be a weakness anymore. And you know what? I think the Duffer brothers and Netflix have become somewhat greedy with their wokeness here. I've said it before, I think that it would have made sense if one out of all these teen characters was an LG person, but 2 rainbow character reveals within the past 3 seasons, and constantly pushing this theme into every major plot point this season, is just over the top annoying and unnecessary. And beyond the excessive messaging, it also creates something of a contradiction within the storytelling itself. After all, in Volume 1, Will apparently only discovers his strength after accepting that he's fond of dudes. But now in Volume 2, he's telling everybody that being fond of dudes is also his weakness. I mean, make up your mind, is being fond of dudes a strength or a weakness? Because it really can't be both. Anyhow, everybody hugs Will and tells him that he's the best, and then they go out to the military base for their final operation. Nancy, who's just a full-on one-woman commando unit at this point, kills some soldiers and the gang drives Murray's bus into the Upside Down. And while I know that the soldiers are considered bad within the context of the show, would both Hopper and Nancy really be shooting to kill them all? I mean, as negative as the soldiers seem, are they not just doing their job? Anyhow, after Vecna recaptures Holly, he places her in his virtual house with all the other kids, and they don't believe her that he's evil. He then places them all in a trance because he needs their power to start the process of connecting the abyss with the real world, and their young, weak minds are perfect for building tunnels or something, and then this volume of episodes is done with only one more episode left, which is not yet aired. Now, after being disappointed with Volume 1, I really did hope that Volume 2 would be better, but it somehow just doubled down on all the mistakes of Volume 1. For starters, you'd think that with so many underused characters that the story doesn't seem to know what to do with, the show could have gotten rid of at least a few of them in these episodes, like Robin and Anne of Green Gables, Nancy and Jonathan, Mrs. Wheeler, and even Max. Having nothing bad to happen to anybody aside from nameless soldiers really lowers the stakes here, which isn't a great setup for the finale. For the most part, Hopper and Elle have been pretty useless this entire season, and their storyline has felt like a repeat of what we've seen from them in the past. And while Elle has at least a few brief moments to shine, Hopper has been reduced to practically nothing. Same with Joyce, who says supportive things to her son here, but really doesn't do anything noteworthy. Once again, the rather irritating and unreasonably smart Robin and her girlfriend Anne of Green Gables get way too much screen time for some reason, especially considering that they're not OG main characters like Mike, Dustin, and Lucas, who used to be the heart of the show. Lucas spends most of these episodes sitting in a hospital next to an unconscious Max, and Max, who's supposed to be in a coma, does a whole lot more than Lucas does, again. Mike just pops up here and there and says a few encouraging things to Elle, but he never really seems to drive the plot forward in any way. And at this point, Mike's little sister Holly gets to be a more central character than he does, which I also don't like. Dustin and Steve get to do a little more in these episodes than they did in Volume 1, but it still doesn't feel like it's enough. And once again, the women are more dominant here than the men, with Mrs. Wheeler getting her mama bear moment at the hospital, while nobody ever mentions Mr. Wheeler or cares to even ask if he's still alive. Nancy is now Rambo and does more action than Hopper, and after 7 episodes, I can't really say anything good about Linda Hamilton's appearance on this show. It's like the Duffer brothers thought signing her would be a good idea, but then they didn't even know what to do with her, which is a real shame because I genuinely like her as an actress, but as this grumpy army officer, she's just the most generic of generic characters, completely miscast and wasted here. Another issue I have is that the story, which has so many conveniences in it, is also somehow convoluted at this point, especially with the Duffer brothers trying to tie together so many loose ends amidst their ongoing retcons like the Upside Down, Vecna, the Abyss, the Mind Flayer, and even the Demogorgons in a way that feels rather flimsy. Now all we have left is the season finale, and while I'm invested enough to watch it, just like I've watched the entire series until now, I can't help but feel that Stranger Things has become a very uneven ride over the years, and nothing this season has really given me the feeling that they're going to stick the landing. With that being said, I still think it's watchable in spite of all of its flaws, mainly due to the level of the production overall. I still like seeing some of these actors and their performances, I still like the atmosphere and visuals. It's just too bad the show has squandered so many chances to achieve greatness, especially this season, as it really settled for just being pretty mediocre. And if I had to give Stranger Things Volume 2 a score, where anything below a 60 is considered a failing grade, I suppose I would give this show a 67 out of 100, which means that it's certainly not the best we've seen from this show, but I suppose there's worse ways to spend a few hours on your couch watching TV, and if you enjoy getting these type of reviews from an independent reviewer like myself, please make sure to like and subscribe, as it would really help my channel. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos. From